Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vidhanava Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Gopijannava Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Braja Janaranjan Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Braja Janaranjan Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunjabihari Kunjabihari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Gopijannava Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jai Gopi Janavala Jai Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Raja Janaranjan Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Raja Janaranjan Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Kunjabihari Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Rama Madhava Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Madhava Jaya Kunjabihari Shishira Damadava Ki Jai Shishira Damadava Ki Jai Jayom Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Vivajakacharya Astottara Saptashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayom Vishnupada Paramhamsa Grivachakacharya Astaltarasa Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bolo. They were reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is just awesome. Canto 5, which is particularly interesting. Chapter 3. What is the title of this chapter 3? Maharaj Agnidra performs Lord Rishabhadev's appearance in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi. Text number 3, which I think is some long prose here. Try my best to sing it, since every syllable indicates Krishna. We tried to make it sound nice. Atahatam aviskrita. Oops, I forgot to say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Excuse me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 5, Chapter 3, text number 3. Atahat Krita Bhuja Yugaladvayam Hiranmayam Purusha Vishesham Kapisha Koshayam Bharadharam Urasi Vilasachchi Srivatsa Lalamam Daravara Vanaharu Vanaruha Vanamalachurya Amritamani Kadadibhir Upalakshitam Utakirana Pravara Mukuta Kundala Katakakati Sutra Karakayura Nupura Dyanga Bhushana Vibhushitam Ritvik Sadasya Grihapatayo Dhana Ivotamadhanam Upalabhya Sabahumanam Arhanenavanata Shira Shirsana Upatastuhu. Word for word translation says, Ata, therefore, ha, certainly, tam, him, Avishkrita Bhuja Yugala Dvayam, who manifested himself with 4 arms. Hiranmayam, very bright. Sometimes like golden effulgence, right? Hiranyakashipu, Hiranmayam. Purusha Vishesham, the topmost of all living beings. Purushottama. Vishesha is the best. Purusha Vishesha. Kapisha Koshaya Ambaradharam, wearing a yellow silk garment. Ambaradharam. Urasi, on the chest, I think. Some devotees will be pleased to recognize that it doesn't say dhoti. It says dharam, garment. Vilasa, beautiful. Srivatsa, called Srivatsa. Lalamam, possessing the mark. Dharavara, by a conch shell. Vanaruha, lotus flower. Vanamala, garland of lotus flowers. Garland of forest flowers, excuse me. Achuri, disc. Amritamani, the Kaustuba gem. Gada Adibi, and by a club and other symbols. Upalakshitam, symptomized. Sputa Kirana, radiant. Pravara, excellent. Mukuta, helmet. Kundala, earrings. Kataka, bracelets. Kati Sutra, a girdle. Hara, necklace. Keyura, armlets. Nupara, ankle bells. Adi, and so on. Anga, of the body. Bhushana, with ornaments. Vibhushitam, decorated. Ritvik, the priests. Sadasya, associates. Grihapatayaha, and King Nabi. Griha Pataya, the master of the home, the lord of the home, King Nabi. Adanaha, poor persons. Iva, like. Uttamadhanam, a great treasure. Upalabhya, having achieved. Sa Bahumanam, with great regard. Arhanena, with ingredients for worship. Avanata, bent. Shirshanaha, their heads, upatastuhu, worshipped. Translation and purport by its divine grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Vishnu appeared before King Nabi with 4 arms. He was very bright and best of all personalities. Around the lower portion of his body, he wore a yellow silken garment. On his chest was the mark of Shrivat, which always displays beauty. He carried a conch shell, lotus flower, disc, and club, and he wore a garland of forest flowers and a kaustuba gem. He was beautifully decorated with a helmet, earrings, bangles, belt, pearl necklace, armlets, ankle bells, and other bodily ornaments, bedecked with radiant jewels. Seeing the Lord present before them, King Nabi and his priests and associates felt just like poor people who have suddenly attained great riches. They received the Lord and respectfully bent their heads and offered him things in worship. Wow, nice description, huh? Report by his divine grace. It is distinctly mentioned here that the Supreme Personality of Godhead did not appear as an ordinary human being. He appeared before King Nabi and his associates as the best of all personalities, Purushottama, as stated in the Vedas, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam, from the Katha Upanishad. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also a living being, but he is the supreme living being. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yovididati Kama. One fulfills the desires of the many. That's the difference. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself says, Mata parataram nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. No one is more attractive or more authoritative than Lord Krishna. Yeah, sounds right. That is one of the differences between God and an ordinary living being. According to this description of the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu, the Lord can easily be distinguished from other living beings. Consequently, Maharaj Nabi and his priests and associates all offered the Lord obeisances and began to worship him with various things. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tata. That is, upon gaining this, one thinks that there is no greater gain. When one realizes God and sees the Lord face to face, one certainly thinks that he has gained the best of all things. Rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. It's also from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 50, 60 something. When you get when one experiences a higher taste, his consciousness is fixed. After seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one ceases to be attracted by anything material. One then remains steady in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Amazing purport, as always. Om Jnana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Glorious, glorious description of the beautiful form of the Lord. His Aviskrita Bhuja Yugaladvayam, manifested with 4 arms. Hiranmayam, very bright and beautiful, wearing his yellow silken garment, carrying the conch shell, lotus flower, the disc in the club, the mark of Srivats on his chest, garland of forest flowers, and the Kaustuba gem. All these things are so nice for us to meditate upon. So herein, we're giving some instruction to see God. We all want to see something. We think that seeing is the most important evidence, even though you can't even see the back of your head. And it's so close to you. It's always been so close to you. You can't even see it. But we tend to put a lot of value in seeing. And the Lord can also be seen, but by one whom he chooses. That's the part we don't like. That if the Lord so desires, he can reveal his form. Very mercifully, he reveals his name. We all have access to the name. Actually, we can all chant the name of the Lord, and he very easily makes himself available in that way. He can't actually withdraw himself from the holy name, but generally speaking, Lord Chaitanya favors even the most fallen persons with his holy name. But if the Lord favors us, if we are so qualified, if our eyes are tinged with the salve of love, then we can also see with the eyes, if he so chooses. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. One can see within the heart when the eyes are tinged with the salve of love. So we should pray to the Lord, if you so desire, please allow me to see you. Prabhupada says face to face. He says it several times, face to face. So there is that course, that Hridayeshu Vilokayanti, seeing within the heart. But there's also face to face. Here Maharaj Navi and his associates and all the priests, they're suddenly seeing the Lord face to face, like, wow. And as we're going to hear in this chapter, he's going to bless the Lord that he's going to bless Maharaj Nabi, telling him that he will appear in the form of Rishabhdev as his son. So we should similarly pray to the Lord so that we can see him. It takes a bit of humility. It takes a lot of humility, actually, to just accept and admit that our senses are so limited. We can't see even the nature of this desk that my laptop is resting upon. We think that we see a particular color, shape. But if you get much smaller, you'll see all sorts of different organic compounds from the wood that it's made out of, and whatever chemicals have been sprayed on it. And then you can go even smaller and see on some molecular level or an atomic level that there's these vibrating particles. There's all sorts of organisms on the surface, probably because I haven't cleaned it in a while. So there's probably some bacteria or something growing, or some yeast, which is flowing through the air. We don't even accept that this world conforms to our standards of naive realism. And yet, just like out of arrogance and frustration, we say, well, God should just appear before me. I should be able to see him right now. You can't even see your own hair growing. If the lights go out, you can't see a single thing. Our eyes are dependent on conditions. There's not enough light of a particular wavelength. You can't see anything. Even if there is light, but of a wavelength which doesn't is not compatible with our eyeballs, then you just can't see it. But we're just so cocky and arrogant. We think, well, Krishna should just appear before me right now. No, the bhakti approach is we must qualify ourselves with devotion. And if the Lord so desires, he can reveal himself, and he absolutely can and does. Many of us have had some experience, direct perception of the Lord in moments of unusually high devotion, perhaps in the kirtan, or when you're having darshan, Sri Radha Damodar, and you're really just praying like anything. Then if the Lord so desires, he can give us a transcendental vision, sometimes in the form of dream, when our consciousness is not so encumbered by Rajaguna. The Lord can reveal himself. We have to take that very seriously. It's very special. But recognize and just accept the condition of the relationship. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. Muddho yam navijananti. Lokoyam avyayam Rama Rama Hare Hare. I can't remember the last line. But it's Krishna's prerogative that if he wants, he doesn't have to just be on display to anybody. He doesn't have to be revealed. That's just the nature of being a person. Any person can restrict access. What to speak of the Supreme Person, Purushottama. We have to just accept that and not be frustrated. Why doesn't he show himself to me right now? I need it right now. He's made his holy name accessible. He's made Srimad Bhagavatam accessible, the devotees accessible. But to see his beautiful form, that's a special mercy. And we can have it, but we shouldn't think that it's some cheap thing. Lord is not cheap. We are cheap. Excuse me for being a little critical, but we're very cheap. Nowadays, our eyes are just saturated with cheap thrills, especially in our digital age. What exists in the digital realms is far more phenomenal to the eyes than what we generally see in our usual day-to-day affairs. And that's why people want to tune in. They want to get in front of some screen, see more and more and more. Let me saturate my eyes with all sorts of wild and crazy things. But it's just all becomes so cheap. That's the problem. It's all so cheap. And now we don't believe anything that you see online. They got all this deep fake stuff going on where you don't even know, is this actually the person saying that? Or is it just some artificial intelligence creating an image that looks like this person? Everything's got these filters. There's these filters to make everything look better than it really is. Our eyes are just saturated. We're just so cheap. We're into cheap thrills. And so we shouldn't be surprised that our eyes are not so tuned to see the Lord. But it is possible. By the grace of the Lord, it is possible. We can see with our eyes. When those eyes are tinged with the salve of love, it is entirely possible. So, I want to go through this purport here, and then maybe we'll read some further description about the Lord's beautiful form from Lord Kapila Dev. You know, remember in the third canto, chapter 28, he gives instruction on how to meditate on the beautiful form of the Lord. Maybe we'll read that. But first, as always, Srila Prabhupada's purport is just jam-packed with really important and interesting statements. And that is, what is it they say here? No one is more attractive or more authoritative than Lord Krishna. That's the difference between God and an ordinary living being. No one is more attractive or more authoritative. The ordinary living beings that we meet in this world, they lose their attractive quality after some time. If you're attracted to someone's form, that attraction, it dissipates, even if they look the same by some sort of arrangement and by the purchasing of so many different products. They try to keep their form, try to make it look like they're not rotting, because we're all slowly rotting. Pretty much after like 22, 23, it's all just kind of a slow degradation from there, a slow burn. But you can invest in all sorts of products to make it look like you're not rotting as quickly. So even if a person puts in that effort to apply all the creams and the gels and the smells and whatever, still they will lose attractive potency in your eyes. That's just the nature of an ordinary living being. In contrast, a person who has perceived Krishna either through the ears or the eyes or the nose or the tongue, or having touched the form of the deity form of the Lord, their attraction increases. Krishna's attractive quality actually increases. That's the distinction, the difference between God and the ordinary living being. No one is more attractive. Some people, there are some men in this world and they got real stellar women. I don't know if the wives or girlfriends or whatever. They can have like a real phenomenal specimen, and yet they'll lose attraction. By all objective standards, every heterosexual male in the world will say this is an attractive woman, and yet the man who's a partner of that woman will eventually lose attraction for her. This is the material disease. This is our condition. It's just the nature of an ordinary living being. You lose attraction, but Krishna's attractive quality increases. We chant the holy names of the Lord. When we all first started chanting, we all had some infatuation, like, what's going on here? What is this? It's very interesting. It's a flavor that's different. And as we continue to chant attentively and in the association of devotees, continue to hear about the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord, our attraction increases. Lord Brahma says that this is the evidence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is his transcendental drama. His quality, it eclipses all of the attractive potency of this material world. Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manashu Yapraninam Pratipalam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayatya Jasram Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yatena Bhuvanani Jayatya Jasram. It conquers over the attractive quality of this material world. That's our tangible experience. You get tired of anything else that's going on. Oh, she said this and he did that and blah, 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 blah. It's like, let's hear about Krishna. So we're all experiencing that in our heart. So there's no one more attractive than Lord Krishna. And in contrast, ordinary living beings, even if their physical form or the words that they speak, but beautiful they may be, it inevitably loses attractive quality. So frustrating. But it's an inherent truth. So that's what makes Krishna different. And therefore the most authoritative, because really authority comes in attraction. It's not just, one who has the most knowledge or has the most power. I mean, we're attracted to knowledge, we're attracted to power. These are some of the 6 opulences. It's that attractive quality of those things that gives authority. There are some people that have a lot of money. Some people have a lot of opulence, but they're not attractive. And so therefore we don't see them as an authority. Take South Africa's finest, Mr. Musk. 10 years ago, he was just like king of the world. People just loved him. I mean, like cult status, worshipped, right? So many people dedicated to, following his every move, thinking that he's the super genius. But as Prabhupada said, a fool is unrecognized so long as he doesn't speak. So he would only speak in certain forums specifically about his products and his services and stuff. And so people thought he was really smart and intelligent. But then he started talking too much. And you just realize that, having $200 billion doesn't make you a genius. Still a fool. And now he's not as popular, to say the least. So even though he has all opulence of money, still is not authoritative. People don't see him as authoritative, at least not as much as 10 years ago. He's definitely lost a lot of grace. Someone might have some other opulence, a lot of political power. But the history of the world, full of stories of men and women who have attained political power one year and they're just like king of the world, and then the next year just off with their head. It's not authoritative. It's the attractive quality that's authoritative. And Krishna's attraction increases, whereas the attractive quality of an ordinary living being decreases all the time. And so there's no authority there. For example, do you all remember Sai Baba? Perhaps some of our younger persons here, they might not know Sai Baba, or as I like to call him, Sly Blubba. He was this guy who claimed to be God, and he was just a bit of a weirdo, like most people who do claim to be God, and highly offensive, of course. Of course, he would make this excuse, well, I never said that I'm God, but my followers say that I am. Of course, he never told them that he's not God. He just kind of went along with it for fun. And naturally, there's all this sort of stuff about having sex with women and impregnating a bunch of them. So Sai Baba, he was popular for some time. and my friend Vamshidhari was doing book distribution in New Zealand and met this guy on the street who said, Sai Baba is God, Sai Baba. And he pulled up a picture of Sai Baba. And Vamshidhari, he said, the Vedas say that Bhagavan possesses all 6 opulences in full. This guy said, yes, Sai Baba, Bhagavan, Sai Baba. Vamshidhari says the 6 opulences are power and wealth and knowledge and renunciation and fame and beauty. And Vamshidhari took the picture of Sai Baba and he said, does this look like the most beautiful person in the world to you? Because we ever seen a picture of Sai Baba, he's just like, he's not the most attractive entity. Big old chunky face, and he had this afro, and it's like far set eyes. So he just like called him out. This is not the most beautiful entity. It cannot be God. This is not the most attractive and beautiful entity by far. So therefore, an ordinary living being. But the attractive quality of Krishna is authoritative. And that's what we're always longing for. We want to be attracted to the Supreme Personality of God. We want to be attracted. We want to have our mind drawn like the Ganges always flows towards the ocean, right? Isn't that what Queen Kunti says? Ayi mainanya vishaya matir madhupateya sakrit ratim udvahata ada gangivoga mudanvati. This is real meditation. When the mind is just drawn towards the object, like the Ganga flows towards the sea, it cannot be stopped by anything. She says, let my attraction be drawn towards you and towards nothing else. Tvayime ananya vishaya. Rati is attraction. So no one is more attractive than Lord Krishna, and therefore nothing is more authoritative. That is the difference between God and the ordinary living being. So I think there's such an important statement Srila Prabhupada is making in this purport, that we should contemplate that deeply. Sometimes there's some attractive qualities in this world. We have to admit, whatever that thing is, it always loses its attractive potency. Even the most beautiful woman in the world, which generally is accepted that the most attractive thing in this material world is the female form. Even the most beautiful woman in the world will eventually lose that attractive potency. Even while she is still attractive, still her partner will tire. and just think about something else. So, very, very interesting. Spiritual science here, the attractive potency of Krishna. Of course, the name Krishna just means the most attractive. Krishi, plowing, traction. Krishi go rakshavanijam, Vaishya karma svabhavajam. We're doing a lot of Vaishya karma at Gitanagari. The Vaishya karma is Krishi and go raksha, plowing and cow protection. So that Krishna, is attractive. In some places it's said that Krishi means attraction and na refers to Ananda. That which attracts you with Ananda, with bliss, is Krishna. So that's what we're really longing for, attraction. We want that attractive potency. And that's what makes Krishna authoritative. So I think that's very interesting spiritual science, very interesting statement from Srila Prabhupada here. At the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, after seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one ceases to be attracted by anything material. So this is the symptom. This is the symptom of our progress. And it is a progress, a progression. As is stated in that very famous verse in the 11th canto, Bhakti Paresha Anubhavo Viraktir. Bhakti Paresha Anubhava, which means direct perception of the Lord. And Virakti, detachment from everything else. Bhakti Paresha Anubhavo Viraktir. Anyatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala. These three things occur simultaneously, Ekakala, at one time. Anyatra Chaisha Trika Ekakala. Prapadyamanasya, for one who is forward stepping. Prapadya, Prapadyamana, forward stepping or surrendering. Prapadyamanasya yatasnatasyus tushti pushtikshurapayanugasam. Just like for a person who eats, they experience simultaneously relief from hunger, nourishment of the body, and satisfaction, like pleasure. Those occur simultaneously. Where a person is eating, they get nourishment of the body, they feel the relief from hunger, and they feel some satisfaction, some pleasure. It happens simultaneously. So similarly, for one who's surrendering to the Lord, there's simultaneously devotion. We feel the welling of love. We feel the heart opening in love and appreciation for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, starting with gratitude, some awe and reverence, and then that love matures, becomes more refined into the four primary rasas of servitude, friendliness, fraternity, and conjugal love. And we have some direct perception of the Lord. That's the whole purpose of this verse and purport here. We start to perceive the Lord. When you see the deity form of Sri Sri Radha Damodar, pray to the Lord to see. Recite the prayers of great devotees in their description of the Lord's form, and pray, let me see with eyes tinged of love your transcendental form. That direct perception is there. The direct perception of the Lord as being non-different from his holy name. We perceive this. Paresha Anubhava. Perception of the Supreme. And Virakti. Detachment from everything else. This should be occurring simultaneously. If we're manifesting some devotion and also perceiving the Lord, but not becoming detached from other things, then we should know that we can go a lot deeper in our devotion and our perception of the Lord, because the natural result of that is detachment from other things. Rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. What is that whole verse? I can't remember. Rasopyasya, anyway, it's in chapter 2. When you get a higher taste, you naturally give up the lower taste. So we should be becoming detached from other things of this material world. Just whatever. This thing, that thing, he said, she said, they went there, and this thing happened here, and blah, 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 blah. Virakti. It's not so interesting anymore, because some devotion is awakening in my heart. Some direct perception of the Lord is happening. So naturally, there should be detachment from other things. One ceases to be attracted to anything material. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Thank you. So let's let the natural effect of devotion take its course. The natural effect is the detachment from material things. But sometimes we kind of like resist that. Yeah. I mean, I love Krishna and I have some attraction to Krishna and I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I really like it. Krishna is amazing. But I still need all this stuff. We have to let that natural detachment, ceasing attraction to anything material. You have to just let it happen naturally. It can be a little scary for some people. I see so many times new persons coming along and a feeling action for Krishna. They feel kind of scared, like, losing attraction for those same things, those things that I used to really be fascinated with. I mean, that's one of the really explicit symptoms of someone who's suicidal. I was just reading about that recently because there was a regular at the Bhakti Yoga Center who did take her own life recently. So I was reading about some symptoms of suicide, and one of the very common ones is when a person loses attraction for those things that they used to enjoy. It's a symptom of such extreme depression that they might be suicidal. So people get scared by that. But we should not be scared. We are not losing attraction for material things because of some depression, but because of param drishtva, superior taste, rasa, superior taste. And we should allow that natural replacement to take its course, not resist it. It's okay to just dive deep into attraction to Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. And on that note, let's just take a few minutes to read a beautiful description of the Lord's form. And then I'll finish there. From third canto, Lord Kapila Dev's instruction to his mother Devahuti, chapter 28. You might recall that this is his instructions on how to meditate. And he gives the beautiful descriptions of the Lord's form. A couple of verses, and I'll try not to comment. We can the way Lord Kapila Dev has instructed us to meditate. So beginning from text 21, he says, the devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a goad, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resembles the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. Oh, Krishna's nails are red. I can't comment. I'm trying not to comment, but I just got to say one thing. That this is like supreme masculinity. Krishna is the Adi Purusha. But, if we saw any normal man dressed like this, we'd think, okay, here's a cross-dresser, someone who's transgender or something. But Krishna, he's demonstrating that masculinity is not a matter of dress. His masculinity is that he's the creator, the provider, the supreme enjoyer, but he can dress in ways that we can only fantasize about. Beautiful ruby nails resemble the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. The yogi should fix in his heart the activities of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, who is worshipped by all demigods and is the mother of the Supreme Person, Brahma. She can always be found massaging the legs and thighs of the Transcendental Lord, very carefully serving him in this way. Setting the standard for husbands and wives. Yes, we should be massaging each other's feet. Okay, like the supreme husband and wife, Lakshmi Narayan. I did that yesterday. Next, the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of Godhead's thighs, the storehouse of all energy. Wow. The Lord's thighs are whitish blue, like the luster of the linseed flower. Linseed flower. Thank God for the internet. We can look up, what an incredible blue color. Those of you who can, take a moment to search for the linseed flower. Amazing. So his thighs resemble the luster of the linseed flower and appear most graceful when the Lord is carried on the shoulders of Garuda. That's the best way to see the Lord's thighs. He's on the shoulders of Garuda. Also, the yogi should contemplate his rounded hips, which are encircled by a girdle that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his ankles. The yogi should then meditate on his moon-like navel in the center of his abdomen. From his navel, which is the foundation of the entire universe, sprang the lotus stem containing all the different planetary systems. The lotus is the residence of Brahma, the first created being. In the same way, the yogi should concentrate his mind on the Lord's nipples, which resemble a pair of most exquisite emeralds, and which appear whitish because of the rays of the milk-white pearl necklaces adorning his neck, his chest. Short story. In the Krishna book, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes how a Akrura enters Vrindavan being sent by Kamsa. And he comes in the evening during the milking time of the cows. He finds Krishna and Balaram in the milking barn. Maybe it was kind of outdoor, but wherever where they were milking the cows, just as the sun was setting, he saw Krishna and Balaram like two mountains of sapphire and silver. And with their effulgence, they were dissipating the darkness of ignorance of all living beings. And I read this description. I was just like, wow, mountains of sapphire and silver. I got to check this out. I was just a young brahmachari when I was doing books in some suburb in South Auckland. And I went into this Pakuranga, that's the suburb. I went into this jewelry store for a little break. I went into this jewelry store. I said to the ladies there, I'd like to see your finest sapphire and silver pieces, please. And all the women are getting all excited. Ooh, is there a special someone in your life? And I said, yes. But secretly it was Krishna and Balaram. And so they took out all this silver jewelry and some sapphire jewelry, and they're like putting them together. And I was trying to visualize a mountain of sapphire and silver. I said, please show me some more. And the security guard was getting a little antsy looking at this guy who looked like a vagabond ragamuffin. But I just couldn't help. I just wanted to wrap my eyes around the sapphire and silver, really tried to understand what Krishna and Balaram look like, mountains of sapphire and silver. So similarly, we should get a nice view of some exquisite emeralds, and in this way meditate on the Lord's nipples. The yogi should then meditate on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the abode of Goddess Mahalakshmi. The Lord's chest is the source of all transcendental pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. The yogi should then imprint on his mind the neck of the Personality of Godhead, who is adored by the entire universe. The neck of the Lord serves to enhance the beauty of the Kaustuba gem which hangs on his chest. Because we are not so beautiful, we have to put on jewelry. We try to dress it up a little bit. But the Lord's neck enhances the beauty of the Kaustuba gem, which hangs on his chest. His ornaments become beautified because of being on his body. The yogi should further meditate upon the Lord's forearms, which are the source of all the powers of the demigods who control the various functions of material nature. Then the yogi should concentrate on the polished ornaments which were burnished by Mount Mandara as it revolved. He should also duly contemplate the Lord's discus, the Sudarshan chakra, which contains 1,000 spokes and a dazzling luster, as well as the conch, which looks like a swan in his lotus-like palm. Right? You see this when the pujaris are holding the conch when they go to blow the conch. Are we still blowing the conch, or are we still not blowing the conch? I think we should go back to blowing the conch. Just going to throw that opinion out there. And when the devotees are holding the conch, it does look like a beautiful bird, like a swan or dove. So this is what it looks like in his lotus-like palm. The yogi should meditate upon his club. This is awesome, which is named Kamodaki. He's got a name for his club and is very dear to him. This club smashes the demons who are always inimical soldiers and is smeared with their blood. Krishna is beautiful in all ways. It's not just like an elegant beauty. He's also beautiful because he has this club and it's got blood of demons on it. That's part of the beauty. It's all part of the show here. It's amazing. One should also concentrate on the nice garland on the neck of the Lord, which is always surrounded by bumblebees with their nice buzzing sound. And one should meditate upon the pearl necklace on the Lord's neck, which is considered to represent the pure living entities who are always engaged in his service. So Krishna wears pearls, bona fide. One should then meditate on the lotus-like countenance of the Lord, who presents his different forms in this world out of compassion for the anxious devotees. His nose is prominent, and his crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. Can't you just see it? Can't you just see it? It's just so beautiful. I still don't really get this alligator-shaped earrings thing. If someone could shine some more light on that, I'd appreciate it. Does he just like alligators and he has earrings shaped like alligators? Is it like specifically an alligator, or does it just kind of have a similar shape? I need some more knowledge. The yogi then meditates upon the beautiful face of the Lord, which is adorned with curly hair and decorated by lotus-like eyes and dancing eyebrows. Krishna is very expressive with his eyebrows. Listen to this. Are you ready? A lotus surrounded by swarming bees and a pair of swimming fish would be put to shame by its elegance. I almost saw this in the Sydney Botanical Gardens. Anandini and I used to live in an apartment right on the edge of Hyde Park. And pretty much every morning we would do our japa walk through the Sydney Botanical Gardens. And at one point they had this little setup with lotus flowers, and not just lilies. Lilies are very beautiful too, but they're more common. The lotus flowers, they were just huge, like this big. And we happened to come across it one morning when the sun was just rising and hitting it right, and all these bees were buzzing around, and there were fish in the pond beneath. And I was just like, wow, put to shame by the elegance of the Lord's lotus face. Almost done here. The yogi should contemplate with full devotion on the compassionate glances frequently cast by the Lord's eyes, for they soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of his devotees. His glances, accompanied by loving smiles, are full of abundant grace. A yogi should meditate on the most benevolent smile of Lord Sri Hari, a smile which, for all those who bow to him, dries away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrows, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god for the good of the sages. With devotion steeped in love and affection, the yogi should meditate within the core of his heart upon the laughter of Lord Vishnu. The laughter of Vishnu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine buds, rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Jasmine buds. I need to see it. I need it. Very nice. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. Sorry. My physical form cannot handle this. So there's the rub. There's the kicker. You shouldn't desire to see anything else. But because we desire to see other things, we don't see Krishna so well. We might see a little bit here and there, but we desire to see other things. And so we should not be surprised. Why don't I see Krishna? Why don't I see Krishna? Like a man, he lies to his woman and says, I only have eyes for you, baby. But actually he's looking around at all sorts of other things. And so he can't really see the full form of his partner. Can't really appreciate her full beauty because he wants to see other things. So this is our problem. We desire to see so many other things. It's time for us to get over it. Time for us to get over it and just desire to see Krishna. All right, 7:58. Not much time for comments, but maybe if someone's really ambitious, they can. It seems there's a lot going on in the chat that I've missed. What is the Sanskrit for alligator-like earrings? I don't know, but we can find the verse number is 3, 28, 29. Let's see who can look it up the fastest. 3, 28, 29. Let's see what the Sanskrit is. It says Kundala, Makara Kundala. Yeah, you had it already. Makara Kundala. There's a comment in the chat from Jana Vatsala Devidasi. Sometimes in a circle of, okay, hold on. Oh, I appreciate this. Oh, thank you for appreciating. I have a long comment dispersed with interrelated questions. Okay, I'll try my best before we have darshan of the Lord. You said some of us may have experiences of direct perception of the Lord. What about getting to see his form as Krishna in Vrindavan? Yes. Yes, I am cheap, arrogantly wanting to see Krishna right now. That's not arrogant. You have the right, Jana. It is your birthright. Despite my material senses and eyes that have so many conditions, like you said, I can't even see the hairs on the back of my head. How do you become a candidate for Krishna to reveal his form in Vrindavan to you now? What can disqualify you and discourage Krishna from doing so? For example, Krishna may give his heart to the devotee and let himself be controlled by his devotee. If that devotee has uncontrolled senses, that seems risky for Krishna. The risk seems to be it's taboo to share that you have seen Krishna if you have. Well, yeah, I mean, devotees tend to keep their ecstasy, the tendency is to keep your ecstasy well reserved. There's a verse in the Madhya Lila. Oh, having darshan of Sri Sri Radha Damodar now. So maybe we'll have to discuss this personally some other time, Jana. Because you have such a bhakti-filled comment here. I want to give it.
Please go on, Prabhu.
Oh, okay. All right. I just don't want to interrupt anyone's meditation on the form of Sri Sri Radha Damodar. We're looking so nice, back in black. I'm sorry. Back in black, looking very nice when Krishna wears black. Actually, I like Krishna in black the most. That's my personal favorite. I don't have any scripture to back this up. I'm not saying that. I know we just heard about him dressed in yellow, but I think Krishna looks really nice in black. Okay, so Jana Vatsala, she has a nice comment here about to see Krishna and at Vrindavan, and that we should. What did you say? It's taboo to share that you have seen Krishna, even if you have. That's the conception from what I've heard. Yes, there is a statement in the Madhya Lila. I could find it if I had some time, which does say that if devotee has ecstatic love, they tend to keep it a bit reserved and hidden in the heart because it can confuse people. And we don't want to make that a cheap thing. A lot of people can say, I've seen God, just to kind of get some followers and to make some money. So the devotees who, they tend to keep their ecstasy a little reserved, a little hidden. They are gambhira, a bit grave. That means hiding their emotions. Often out of compassion for persons who might be confused by that. They might be bewildered. They don't yet have faith that that's even possible. And so they could become judgmental or critical. Even Lord Chaitanya was kind of exclusive about whom he exhibited his ecstasies in front of, with only certain people. So that's out of compassion for persons who are not qualified really to understand that the Lord has a form. So he said we're taught to keep these things a bit private. If we're likely to reveal to others that he's revealed his form to us, could that disqualify us from him wanting to share his form? It's a sensitivity. In fact, we're trying to do the exact opposite, Jana, and you did it so expertly on Thursday. We're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to convince everybody about the Lord's form. We're trying to share the Lord's form in our Sankirtana, telling them about Krishna, sharing our experience in contact with Krishna. And so that's certainly not a disqualification. That is a qualification, but it does take some expertise and some sensitivity to Krishna. You don't just rock up to somebody and say, Radha and Krishna are dancing, on the bank of the Jamuna. They can't understand that. They're not at that stage yet. When they inquire, that's when you should tell them. Like at our birthday party for Radha and Madhava, We had Tatum and Pragati were there, and Justin. And Tatum and Pragati, they suddenly started asking about Radha and Krishna. I never like preach about Radha, Srimati Radharani, at the Bhakti Yoga Center. But they start to read some things in here. And so they started to inquire. And then you can tell them about the beautiful form of Radha and Krishna when they have a willingness to hear. If we tell someone prematurely, they might still have some envy in their heart. I mean, they almost guaranteed have some envy. And so they could misunderstand and they could have some offensive reaction. So it takes a bit of expertise and sensitivity to tell people about Krishna, but not more than they can handle. That's why we just start with the holy name. It's the easiest thing. We start with the holy name. And when they come to inquire about the personal form of the Lord, then you can lay it all on the line and tell them, I've had perception of God. I believe that I've seen God. And I'm not making that a cheap thing, but only if they've really asked. If we do too abruptly, it could put people off. I hope that answer is agreeable to you. And there are many others, expert teachers and preachers of Krishna consciousness, and they can add to that if they like. But that is the qualification, to tell others about Krishna and to share that we've perceived Krishna. But we just have to be sensitive in how we do, being sensitive to Krishna first. It's not like a popularity contest. We don't just want to impress somebody and say something and try to win their satisfaction. We want to win Krishna's satisfaction first. Be sensitive. Okay, I'll continue to read this thing that you've written here. Of course, asking him to reveal his form and with more conditions to reveal his form in Vrindavan is all contingent upon his will as a person. But does Bhagavatam reference anything that addresses this qualification? Yes, the qualification is to receive the mercy of the devotees, and then you can see Krishna. What does Queen Kunti say? Bhavo pravaho paramam. Bhavo pravaho paramam parambhujam. That one can see when they take shelter of Krishna. Oh, hold on. That Shinvanti gayanti grinanti vikshna sasmananti nandanti tavehitam jana sa eva pasyata charena tavikam bhavo pravaho paramam parambhujam. She says you'll actually see the lotus feet of the Lord when you always hear, chant, and remember his glories, and also take pleasure in others doing so, jana, and all other people doing so. So that's the Sankirtana. Then she says, see the lotus feet of the Lord. That's the qualification. Always hearing and chanting. There's a type of devotee Krishna may not want to reveal himself to, because that person will reveal that to others. In my case, I expect that I would be shocked and excited into wanting to tell someone about it if it happened to me. But then you have to remember, if you did have that experience, you are not so great or pure. It is mercy. Yes. I'm starting to see an answer that we may be humbled in hearing it due to the weight of bearing beautiful fruits, like the analogy of the branches of the tree that carries many fruits is drawn down humbly. Of course, what comes into the conversation is asking yourself, how much sharing am I discussing? Do I mean if a devotee is likely to share it with a friend or a few in confidence, with the world on social media, in a Bhagavad class, one spiritual community, Desha Kalapatra, time, place, circumstance of the sharing? So yes. So I've given my personal opinion or advice, at least in terms of the Sankirtan, the preaching to new people. So we should be reserved in describing, especially Radha and Krishna and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. But let's hope that a person will inquire, and then they're hearing faithfully. And then you can say very descriptively, very honestly, how I perceived Krishna and how his beautiful form is like this, and how he dances with Srimati Radharani, and how the loving exchange is like that. But we don't want to do that too abruptly to a person who has not inquired with faith, because it could cause some critical mentality in them. So follow the example of even Lord Chaitanya, who was reserved in whom he discussed these things with. It takes a bit of sensitivity to Krishna. It's respect in the relationship. But I think you have the idea. I think you understand exactly. And the fact that you're even asking just shows how much you care about Krishna. So thank you. Okay. There's a sub-comment. I'll just read that and then I guess we'll finish there. Sometimes in a circle of devotees, when someone shares something like that, it is also very inspiring to others. So I'm not saying when someone has spiritual experience, the answer is to only to feel the weight of the experience or realization and not share it. Heavy ripened fruits, unpicked, also fall to the ground. Yes, so that's a great point. We have to share, otherwise we're a miser. The Brahmanas especially, they have a duty to share Krishna consciousness, otherwise they're misers. Like a ripe fruit, if you just let it fall on the ground, it'll just rot. Of course, Krishna doesn't rot. But in this analogy, it's like we've wasted our opportunity to share with others. So we should not refrain from glorifying Krishna. But what I'm saying is we should be a bit sensitive in how we share that with which audience. Sensitivity to Krishna. And it really just depends on the level of faith of the hearer. In Srimad Bhagavatam, when Shukadeva Goswami began to speak about Rasa Lila, Maharaj Parikshit became concerned that not everyone in the audience was at the level of faith to be able to understand. And so he asked a question to solidify the understanding that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, even though he's dancing with the gopis and having these affairs. He recognized that perhaps the audience is not solidified in that faith yet. And so he asked a question to reinstate that point. That's the sort of sensitivity that we should practice. Who is qualified to hear what? But absolutely we should share. And if we don't share, we become a miser. So I hope I've addressed your concerns and your points, Janavatsala. Of course, there's so many other things that more experienced devotees could say about that. I think you're doing a great job. I just want to say, I think you're doing great. I'm just so impressed by your confidence to preach Krishna consciousness. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Tarika Prabhu has his hand up. Would you like to add something or give me some correction, Shriman Tarika Prabhu?
I would like to add something. But Janavatsala seems to be asking more specifically, and she says here, if we're likely to reveal others that Krishna has revealed his form to us, could that disqualify us from him wanting to share his form? And my answer to that is emphatically no. He's not going to be discouraged from revealing himself to us because we've revealed that to others. But I'll say this, that John has also spoken about a kind of unspoken taboo about discussing these kinds of things. And I'll tell you from my own experience that when devotees talk about these things, even amongst other devotees, even devotees who have been devotees for quite some time, it tends to not go well. Even devotees will often tend to become very skeptical, sometimes envious. It does not go well. So as Yasodeva pointed out, discretion is very important. You have to be able to ascertain whether, in fact, the person is going to be properly receptive to hearing such a thing. Not everyone is ready to hear that, and sometimes it's hard to discern who is qualified to hear and who is not. My advice is that you should exercise great care about such things, because it can go really badly, and I've seen a lot of that it does not go well. Srila Prabhupada has spoken about this kind of thing. His devotees would ask him pretty regularly about this, because Krishna does reveal himself to his devotees, of course, and in different ways and for various reasons, sometimes just to provide some incentive for them. They may not be qualified necessarily, but just to encourage them to press on. He gives them a little taste. That happens. An example of that is Narada Muni. When Krishna first revealed himself to Narada, he told him that you will not see me again in this lifetime. And so sometimes that happens to devotees, that Krishna reveals himself just for the purpose of providing some incentive for them, some encouragement. Devotee, certainly should not become overly inflated and think that, my goodness, I'm so advanced, I'm now seeing Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada would, when he discussed these things, he would explain that in our line of succession, we are not, I say, what we hope to achieve is to appreciate Krishna in separation. The mood is one of separation, not seeing Krishna necessarily, but pining for seeing Krishna because we are separated from Krishna. That is the topmost perfection. So Srila Prabhupada would stress that, and was generally critical of those who would talk about having seen Krishna, that this is because in India particularly, this kind of discussion is commonplace. People will try to present themselves as being very advanced by talking about their experiences of having seen Krishna, or that they are presently seeing Krishna. Srila Prabhupada didn't like to hear this kind of thing, and as Yasodeva Prabhu has suggested, it cheapens the whole matter. It's a kind of cheating that is widely practiced by some in pseudo spiritual circles. So we certainly don't want to participate in that sort of nonsense. But as I say, my practical experience is that this kind of discussion, it can be productive when the audience is right. And as Yasodeva Prabhu pointed out, Lord Chaitanya exercised great discretion about with whom he would discuss such things. He had just a small circle of confidants, individuals with whom he would discuss intimate subject matters, and he did not discuss with others. Srila Prabhupada did not generally ever talk to us about seeing Krishna. Sometimes, rarely, with certain individuals, he would mention something briefly and didn't go into great detail. You'd be hard pressed to find instances of Srila Prabhupada, talking about seeing Krishna. Certainly, he sees Krishna, but that was not his example. So that's an important thing to consider. Our founder Acharya, who sets the perfect example, his example was that he didn't talk about such things. So those are things to think about. Lord Chaitanya did sometimes, only with select individuals. Srila Prabhupada evidently didn't think that His disciples in general were qualified to hear such things, and so he didn't talk about it. Sometimes he discussed with a few individuals, and only very brief mention. So in general, he did not discuss such things, certainly not publicly, and certainly not to the devotees at large. Only maybe sometimes with some advanced disciple. So, but every devotee should expect that the result of the practice of Krishna consciousness is that you will see Krishna eye to eye. Krishna will reveal himself. He will manifest himself in that. Gosh, there are countless ways, and who can say how he will manifest? But he may manifest in your heart. You will appreciate him in his holy name. There's virtually no limit to the ways that Krishna can reveal himself, and he certainly will. That's the result of chanting Hare Krishna. You are going to meet Krishna personally. Your spiritual master will introduce you personally to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There you will absolutely see Krishna directly, personally, eye to eye, and he will speak to you. And if you can gather your composure, you may. And for advanced devotees, they are always seeing Krishna. They are never separate from Krishna. They see Krishna at every moment. Even in separation, the beauty of separation is that by that separation, you are never separated. The gopis, in their separation, appearing to be agonizing over a separation from Krishna, the result was that they could not stop thinking of Krishna. The way that separation works is that it serves to very greatly intensify one's meditation on Krishna. And so they were always seeing Krishna within their hearts, not an imaginary form of Krishna, not simply a memory of Krishna, but what they saw was directly Krishna, because Krishna is absolute. So when you remember Krishna, when you're thinking of Krishna, that perception of Krishna is not different from Krishna himself in any way. It is directly Krishna. And so separation means never separated. It's an extraordinary thing, and it's hard for anyone but a devotee to understand. But by that and that was, of course, Krishna's blessing to the gopis by creating a circumstance of separation. It meant that the gopis now, their service would be elevated to the topmost perfection of devotional service, and they would never, ever be separated from Krishna under any circumstances. 24 hours a day, they would always be united with Krishna and always seeing him. In Goloka Vrindavan, all the living entities and everything in Goloka Vrindavan is a person. Everything is a living entity. Even the rocks are persons, and everyone in Vrindavan is seeing Krishna all the time, 24 hours every day, everyone through transcendental television. They are all witnessing Krishna's pastimes constantly, all the time. That's what we hope to achieve one day. But even before actually returning to the spiritual sky, even while materially embodied, we can be residents of the spiritual sky if we qualify ourselves by hearing and chanting the Lord's holy name. You can see Krishna 24 hours a day. So not a big surprise that a devotee sees Krishna. It's just a matter of time. Every devotee will see Krishna, but it's not necessarily a good idea to talk about it. You have to be very careful about that. I always wondered about this. Why do devotees not talk about these things? And I saw that sometimes, things did not go well if someone spoke about it. And what can be said? Not everyone is going to be positively receptive when you speak about such things. So beat the topic to death here, but that's my experience. You got to be really careful. The example of Srila Prabhupada, when we have questions like this, look to the example of the Acharyas. What did they do? What did Srila Prabhupada do? What does your own spiritual master do? Do you find that your spiritual master is, talking about seeing Krishna? Follow the example. What it means to be a disciple. You follow the example. So that's what I've got. Yasodeva Prabhu, looks like there's more comments or questions for you. You may want to read through the chat. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tarka Prabhu. We always appreciate your experience and always giving us the safe perspective, chase to Srila Prabhupada's teachings. We're so grateful for that. Oh, okay. Chat's still going on here. Sri Golok Prabhu is saying so many things about preaching according to degree of realization. Yeah, totally agree with you, Prabhu. We just have to we have to consider the degree of faith of the people that we're preaching to, I think. And that takes some sensitivity. Of course, sometimes we'll make mistakes. There's no doubt, but we just try our best and see what level of faith somebody. Sometimes people are only on the level of faith of prasadam. You know what? And that's fine. Just give them prasadam. But I can tell you how many times I've had people at a preaching program that are just like, I'm not into Krishna. I don't believe any of this stuff, and I don't like it. I don't even like any of you people. And you say, okay, you want some more prasadam? They're like, yes. They just leave it at that. That's just their level of faith. Whatever. Take some prasadam, get out of my face. I was like that. I made prasadam bhakta. I came in there I went to this preaching center in New Zealand. I told them I'm God and I control the stars and the moon. I was just like stoned out of my mind, just like stupidest stuff ever. And all the girls there were like, oh, okay. Do you want some more Malpuras? They gave me these donuts. Just ate it up. That was just my level of faith. They recognized this guy. He's too stupid for words. Just give him prasadam. So we just have to be sensitive to that. What did you say when you said that some of us may have experiences of direct perception of the Lord, like kirtan, etc.? Yeah, we're always perceiving the Lord. We just don't always appreciate it. Like a diamond in the hand of the child is just not appreciated. We're always perceiving the Lord. You're seeing Sri Sri Radha Damodar. You're hearing his holy name. But if there's devotion, then we'll perceive Krishna, Paresha Anubhava. Bhakti, Paresha Anubhava, Virakti. And if we willingly become detached from other things, then we will perceive directly even more. Krishna consciousness is about self-evident experience of Krishna, not just some logical argument. Tarka pratishta, it's not a logical argument for the existence of God. Philosophers have done that for thousands of years. Tarka pratishta shruteyo binam. It's not just like scriptural supremacy. Who's got the more authoritative scripture? And nasavrisya yasya matam nabinam. Anyone who claims to be some great thinker, they only have that status because they disagree with others. This is not how the Lord is established. It's a self-evident experience. Nasavrisya yasya matam nabinam. That great secret is revealed in the heart by the Lord. So we're trying to get that direct experience of Krishna. And we can have that very easily by chanting his holy names in the association of the devotees. It's self-evident. It does not require any sort of justification. So that's what I was referring to. We're always perceiving Krishna. When we take prasadam, when we chant japa, just that, are we really appreciating that experience of Krishna? If the love is there, then we'll see Krishna everywhere. Yeah, my favorite is prasadam. So the comments are that the holy names are non-different, but if that revealed, then it becomes forms. There's a lot of comments. Should we go through everything here? I guess so. It's already 8:30. Might as well just go till breakfast. Do you senior Vaishnavas have experiences of internally grappling between the push to, the enthusiasm and impetus to share a comment or realization, say in Bhagavatam class or in conversation, versus a discretion of asking, should I share this? Should I be silent? Should I let someone else speak? Is this necessary? I think you should share, Jana. We want to hear your ecstasy. Especially in the community of devotees. We should feel confident enough that I can share even doubts. What to speak of sharing my ecstasy? I should even feel confident that I can share my doubts amongst faithful supporters in my community. But again, when preaching to people, we should be careful about what's shared. We don't want to disturb the minds of people who don't understand yet or don't have much faith. So there we need to practice discretion. More so with something not even esoteric. Yeah. Like I said, we should even be able to express some doubts. But sometimes we hold back, and then those doubts can just become a problem.
Yasodeva Prabhu, I just want to, sorry
Yeah.
if I can interject.
No, please.
There's one other point. So there's not such thing, well, there's not just non-devotees and devotees, like the non-devotees are faithless. It's not just black and white. There's also different degrees of Vaishnavas. Devotees have different degrees of faith. So scriptures do talk about, I just want to elaborate on that point, that scriptures do talk about sajayate, which means like-minded devotees. So even in our society, we may encounter devotees that might have different views, and some might even agitate you. So it's really important to talk to someone that's like-minded, someone that's probably into the same things, the topics that you can reveal to in the same way, even with a subsection with our society. We can't just reveal that to everyone. So that's just another point, just non-preaching point, but a point nevertheless.
Yes. That's the glory of Krishna consciousness. So the devotees are individual. We have many varieties and types of devotees, and it's good to find devotees who have similar moods and devotion. Absolutely. And we don't want to go around disturbing people's minds unnecessarily. But Jana, here at Gitanagari, you should share as much as you can. We'd love to hear from you. It's like ecstasy reading your comments here. To pause and tact and to wait can be confusing. Don't want to stamp out enthusiasm. Currently. Yeah, I think you should share. And if you have people that you can share with, then you're very fortunate. And those are the loving exchanges that Rupa Goswami is talking about. To reveal the mind in confidence and to inquire confidentially specifically means to talk about Krishna and his devotional service. And that's a loving exchange. And if we can share that with someone, it's very special. So you should try to do that. We appreciate it. Does anyone experience there's a tension between discretion and enthusiasm? No, I tend to be overly enthusiastic. Maybe I should be a little bit more discreet. So I don't know. I don't have that. I tend to talk too much. So I'm trying to wrap this up here. But your dear father is saying, yes, ask ourselves, what will create the most Krishna conscious effect? Yeah. Because there is times when we should be grave, gambhira, and not reveal everything and not just like Lord Chaitanya did. I'm not so good at that. What is the best opportunity of service in the moment? That's what Jagannath Pandya Prabhu is saying. And then Janavatsala says, yes, I'm hearing you highlight a dichotomy between sharing with devotees versus sharing with preaching. Discretion can be needed with devotees as well as not disturbing others' faith. But the overarching highlight you brought is preaching with people who don't know much about Krishna. Yeah, I'm saying we should be very careful in preaching with people. Not say too much so as to disturb their minds and actually cause them to be offensive towards devotees. So, when we're at the preaching programs at the Bhakti Yoga Center, just say, oh, I really love Kirtan. I've been doing it for so long. And I especially love when we sing like this, when everybody sings together. You can't really create an offense that way. Most people, they can appreciate, the ecstasy of Kirtan. If you go up to them and say, oh, Radha and Krishna are dancing on the bank of the Jamuna, and then he holds her like this and she's just like that, they're going to be like, whoa. That's too much for me. So, we should always share our enthusiasm, but relative to their level of faith, especially at these preaching programs. And you did so nicely. You do it so nicely. All you have to do is go up and say, I just love kirtan. I just love prasadam. How about you? And they'll just be like, yeah, me too. And then boom, you're in. It's that easy. And then you're in. Everybody loves kirtan and prasadam. All right. I think we've said so much. We've covered so many things, and we should probably wrap up because some of us have kids. So if you'll excuse me, thank you, dear devotees, for listening and for participating and sharing so many comments in this discussion. Thank you, Sri Alok Prabhu, for reminding us to also be sensitive to the different types of Vaishnavas, not just blast everybody. That's the classic American thing to do, but you are a sensitive guy from Goloka Vrindavan. Gurudev named you such. Wow. So, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you very much, Yasodeva.
You're welcome, Devaki Preeti.
Have you